Hi everyone and welcome to the Qonic November release video. It's great to have you with us today. So if you're new here, you might be asking, what is Qonic actually built for? Is it a modeling tool, a clash detector? Well, Qonic is built to be your single source of truth. It's the one platform where you can model freely, enrich data, run quantity reports, but also check for clashes and fix them, all while collaborating with every stakeholder by simply sharing a link. My name is Barbara and I'll introduce each topic, and Jacob here with me will immediately jump into the live demo. And we're kicking things off with modeling. Because we launched two brand new tools, we introduced the offset tool, and the fillet option is now inside push-pull tool.
Yes, let's show this in the product. Before I jump to the modeling tools, let me show you what we've introduced as well, which is shortcuts. So we've added shortcuts to the most used tools in Qonic, especially the modeling tools, but also, for example, things like opening panels, like the browser report panel, inspect panel, and so on. They all have their own shortcut, as well as things like sectioning or putting things in scope. Now, if I take a look at the sectioning here, I can see there's actually a new type of sectioning available, which is called box section, allowing you to just click on an object or select an object and build a box section around it. You're able to resize the box by simply pulling on one of the sides, and once accepted, I now have a box section around this window which I want to work on. Now let me show the first modeling tool we've added here in this release, which is called the offset command, basically allowing you to create a line or curve based on an existing curve or edge. So it's called offset, it's under the line section here, shortcut F. I can simply hover over an edge of an object, like this one here, and I can choose in which direction to offset it. I can also do this for multiple edges at the same time, which will ensure that those edges remain connected when I offset them. Offset also works on faces or on boundaries. But before we do that, let me modify one of these lines here. So we've created lines using the offset command, but we can still edit them, like for example, by adding an arc here. So the offset tool also works on faces or boundaries. So if I hit tab here, it will find a closed boundary between lines and edges, which in this case will allow me to offset both the outer and inner boundary. In this case, with a distance of 0.3 feet. And these boundaries can then, of course, now be used for other modeling tools, like, for example, the push-pull command. So it makes it really straightforward to starting from existing geometry, create new geometry, create new lines, and so on. Now, a new feature we've added as well, it's actually a sub-feature of the push-pull command, which is fillet. So now push-pull works on edges as well. So I can select an edge, let's say this one here. I can select multiple edges as well. And simply push-pull on the edge to round it off. So let's give it a rounded corner here. Let's do the same for the inner edges. Now we can do this for multiple chained edges as well. So maybe I'll just add a rounded corner here, like this. So this works on pretty much any geometry, making it really straightforward to start adding, in this case, curvature to your model.
Okay, moving on to data. Meet the dynamic properties. This is a massive leap forward for smart data logic in your project. You can now embed live formulas inside your project data. So imagine calculating net areas or specific wall costs automatically from the model properties. And this cuts out the steps of exporting to spreadsheets and ensures all your crucial information stays connected and current inside one platform.
All right, so I've opened this model here. It's a structural model. And if we take a look at the properties that we have assigned to some objects, so we have existing property sets, all containing what we call static properties, or just simply properties. What we've now added is the option to create dynamic properties. So going to my property library here, I can find I've already created this little property sets here for steel frame properties, including 2 static properties. Now, adding a dynamic property basically allows me to create a property that has a value derived from a certain quantity. For example, let's say we want to know the mass of this steel beam here. So let's give this property the name mass. Now, mass is basically derived from the volume of an object and its mass density. So let's look for mass density. This is a material property, which is in this case filled in for the material that is applied to this beam. So I can say, okay, mass density times the volume. I can either start searching like this, or I can use these little buttons here to help me guide the expression. So this shows me it actually found these 2 properties and a little operator in between. I can still click these properties, like for example this volume, to change to a different measurement or to add some extra information, like for example ignoring certain voids smaller than a certain threshold. In this case, let me just apply it like this, and you'll see that the unit is automatically calculated from the units of the existing properties or measurements in the expression. So in this case kilogram, I can still change it to something else, but kilogram is fine. So now this mass property is created. I can now start assigning it to objects in my model. So in this case, I'll just select all the beams in my model, and I will assign these properties to these beams. So in this case, it's a custom property sets, so let me simply ignore the IFC property sets and just go straight to this one. As you can see, I can fill in values for the static properties, like let's say this is Qonic steel company with a certain strength class, but the mass has a derived value because it's based on the geometry of the objects. So now I should be able to see these new properties on these objects, and I can indeed see that there's now a mass property which is dependent on the geometry of the object. Maybe to make it a bit clearer, let me just select simply one object here. So this steel beam here has a mass of 2000 kilogram. And you'll see that if I change the geometry of the objects, for example, let me just make it a bit shorter. Now the mass is changed to 1500 kilograms. So it's always synced with the actual geometry it's based on. These properties can now also be added in a report panel. So, for example, I have this report for my steel structure grouped by type, where I've already added this mass property as well. So now per beam, I can see what is the actual mass of this beam in kilogram. So for this channel here, it's a mass of 92 kilograms. So makes it really easy to get derived values from geometry in your model. In this case, it's mass, but could be any kind of derived property.
Okay, great. So Qonic already supported project versioning, keeping a complete history of all your changes. And now we're taking it one step further. With Project Publish, you can now push critical updates across multiple models and libraries in a single click. This keeps your entire project aligned while still allowing you the safety net of comparing or restoring any older version whenever needed.
Yeah, so I have 2 models open here. Actually, you can see here in the top left corner, multi-model, meaning in this case I have the structural model open as well as the mechanical model. These are 2 separate models which I can modify individually or together. In this case, let me make some changes to the mechanical model as well. So maybe I'll just make this duct a bit lower, or remove a portion of a duct. Let's just say, okay, I want to get rid of these bits here. Just a very simple example. So now I've made changes across different models in my project. meaning if I now go to the publish dialog, I now get a view of all the models that were modified, and I can in one click publish these changes together. So in this case, I added properties to steel beams and removed some ducts. This is now one single publish, which will in one go modify both these models.
Project versioning is definitely a game changer. It means fewer coordination loops and less time spent manually managing changes between the disciplines. Okay, and let's finish up with the dashboard. We've refreshed the experience to give you maximum clarity and control over your project and team settings.
Yeah, so we've added this members tab here in each project so that everyone in the project can now see who is actually a member of the tab. This is actually an existing feature that was a bit hidden away, but we've now moved it to a more logical place, so you always have an overview of all the different contributors in your project. Next to that, we've also added a model overview for your project. This is only for the project owners to ensure that the project owner always has a good overview of which models are in the project. And this also allows the project owner to join a model as an owner. Because previously, you could have a case where, for example, the project owner was not invited to a certain model within this project. We want to make sure that the project owner always has full control over the models in the project.
Okay, that wraps up our overview of the November release. Thank you, Jacob, for the demos, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. Our goal at Qonic is simple. We want to make BIM easy and enjoyable again. We are focused on delivering one intuitive and seamless workflow where you can bring everyone on board and operate entirely within one platform. You will find all these new powerful features available in the app.qonic.com, so jump in and try them out. We would love to hear your feedback and what you want to see next. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you at the next release video. Bye-bye.